It is December 2nd, 2025. We are standing in the middle of a remote pasture in Quay County, New Mexico. This is no man's land. It is miles from the nearest paved highway. It is silent. It is freezing. The only sound is the wind cutting through the mesquite brush. But there is something here that doesn't belong. A silver Toyota Camry. It sits motionless, high-centered on the rough terrain. The tires are sunk into the dirt. The engine is cold. But as you get closer, your eyes lock onto one detail, a detail that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. The trunk is wide open. It stands agape, like a screaming mouth frozen in the silence. Items from the back are scattered near the bumper. Why is the trunk open? There is no one inside the car. There are no footprints leading back to the main road. There is no cell phone signal, just the empty horizon, watching, waiting. 5 days earlier. Panhandle, Texas. Thanksgiving Day, November 27th. Gary and Linda Lightfoot are finishing their pumpkin pie. The room is filled with the smell of coffee and holiday spices. They are happy. They are safe. Gary is 82 years old, a legend in his community, a retired police chief, a man who spent decades hunting criminals and saving the lost. Linda is 81, his wife, his partner, his anchor for 62 years. At 3 p.m., they stand up from the table. They hug their family. They say the words that every family member takes for granted. We'll be home by dinner. It is supposed to be a boring drive, 150 miles, a straight shot on a highway they have driven 1,000 times. They have a reliable car. They have money. Gary has his portable oxygen machine. Nothing, absolutely nothing, suggests that this is the last time anyone will ever see them alive. But they never make it to dinner. Somehow, a retired police chief, a man defined by his situational awareness, doesn't just get lost, he vanishes. They don't just take a wrong turn. They drive into a nightmare so confusing, so illogical, that it defies explanation. How does a simple drive home turn into a death sentence in the middle of a frozen wasteland? What you are about to hear is not a crime story. There is no gun. There is no killer hiding in the bushes. This is a story about the glitch. That terrifying moment when the safety of the modern world breaks, the lights go out, and the darkness simply swallows you whole. Welcome to the disappearance of Chief Gary Lightfoot. To understand the horror of this case, you first have to understand the man in the passenger seat. This isn't just a confused elderly tourist. This is Charles Gary Lightfoot. For 10 years, he was the chief of police in Littlefield, Texas. Before that, he was a captain in the Warrants Division. Colleagues described him as a tough son of a gun, a man of order, a man of discipline. In his prime, Gary Lightfoot was the one you called when things went wrong. He knew how to navigate chaos. He knew how to survive. But time is the one enemy you cannot arrest. By November 2025, the chief is fighting a different battle. He is 82. He is diabetic. And most critically, he is tethered to a machine, a portable oxygen concentrator. This little box is his lungs. It keeps him alive, but it has a fatal flaw. It runs on batteries that last at best 4 hours. Or it runs on the car's power outlet, as long as the car is running. If that engine stops, the clock on Gary's life starts ticking down. Then there is Linda, 81 years old, a former finance manager, sharp, organized, meticulous with details. For 62 years, they have operated as a single unit. Where Gary goes, Linda goes. As Gary's health faded, Linda stepped up. She became the eyes. She became the driver. On this Thanksgiving afternoon, the dynamic is clear. Linda is the pilot. Gary is the navigator. 3 p.m., Panhandle, Texas. The couple climbs into their silver 2024 Toyota Camry. The plan is simple. Drive west on Highway 60 to Amarillo. Take the interchange to Interstate 27 South. Arrive in Lubbock by 5:30 p.m. They have done this 100 times. But as they pull onto the highway, the environment begins to change. The sun sets. At 5:30 p.m., the Texas Panhandle plunges into darkness. And out here, on the high plains, dark means dark. There is no light pollution, just an endless void of black sky meeting black asphalt. This is where the first crack in reality appears. Geriatric experts call it sundowning. As the light fades, the aging brain struggles to process spatial data. Confusion rises, anxiety spikes. They approach Amarillo, the critical interchange. They need to go south. But they don't go south. They miss the turn. Maybe it was the glare of oncoming headlights. Maybe it was a moment of hesitation. Instead of turning toward home, they stay on the highway, but they aren't just lost. 7 p.m. 4 hours after they left. They should be home. They should be watching TV. Instead, a license plate reader scans their car in Groom, Texas. Groom is 25 miles east of where they started. Do you understand the implication? They aren't driving toward Lubbock. They aren't even driving toward Amarillo anymore. They are driving away from everything they know. They are in a fugue state, driving in circles, hunting for a landmark that isn't there. Now, you are asking the question, why didn't they use GPS? Why didn't they call their son? And here is the fatal error. On the center console, where a smartphone should be, there is nothing. They left it at home. In 2025, a human being without a phone is a ghost. There is no Google Maps to say, make a U-turn. There is no Life 360 for the family to track them. There is no way to call 911. Chief Lightfoot and his wife are now trapped in a metal box, hurtling through the dark at 70 miles per hour, completely cut off from the human race. And the battery on the oxygen machine is starting to drain. After the scan in Groom, something shifts. Maybe Linda realizes they are going the wrong way. She turns the car around. They head west again. They pass right back through Amarillo. This is their second chance. Their last chance to find the exit for Lubbock. But the glitch holds them tight. They miss the exit again. They stay on Interstate 40. They drive past the city lights. They cross the border. Welcome to New Mexico. The landscape changes here. The farm fields disappear. The mesas rise up like black giants in the moonlight. They are entering the high desert. And then, hope appears. Late that night, deep in New Mexico, blue and red lights flash in their rearview mirror. A patrol officer pulls them over. Why? Because the car is drifting. Linda, exhausted, 81 years old, is swerving out of her lane. This is the moment. This is the miracle. The universe is handing them a lifeline. The officer walks up to the window. He shines his flashlight. He sees an elderly couple. They look tired. They look frail. They are honest with him. They say, "We are lost. We are trying to get back to Lubbock." Lubbock is now hours away. They are in the wrong state. The officer looks at them. They aren't drunk. They aren't criminals. He goes back to his cruiser and types their license plate into his computer. Here is the tragedy of bureaucracy. Because the family hasn't panicked yet. Because no missing persons report has been filed. The computer screen says, "No record found." To the officer, they are just confused travelers. He doesn't see a silver alert. He doesn't see endangered. He walks back to the car. He gives them directions. He points them toward Texas. And he lets them go. Watch those taillights fade. That is the last time Gary and Linda Lightfoot speak to another human being. They drive away from the only person who could have saved them. They drive back into the void. And sometime during this long night, the battery dies. Gary's oxygen machine stops. Without oxygen, hypoxia begins. It's not painful. It's a trickster. It makes you confused. It makes you feel euphoric. It makes you think everything is fine when you are actually dying. Gary, the navigator, the chief, is likely losing the ability to tell up from down. Linda is now alone at the wheel. Friday, noon. They are still alive. A security camera at a Love's travel stop in Tucumcari captures them. They have been driving for almost 24 hours. Imagine the exhaustion. An 81-year-old woman driving all night. Their eyes are burning. Their reality is fracturing. They leave the gas station. They think they are heading home, but the desert has one last trap for them. They turn off the highway. Maybe they saw a shortcut. Maybe the hypoxic brain told Gary, "This looks like the farm road back in Panhandle." They drive onto a ranch road, then a pasture. The pavement turns to gravel. The gravel turns to dirt. The dirt turns to sand and scrub brush. The Toyota Camry is a sedan. It is low to the ground. It is not built for this. They are miles from civilization. The wind here screams across the plains. And then the car stops. Stuck, high-centered on the rough terrain. This is the terminal event. The wheels spin, but they catch nothing but air and dirt. Maybe they run out of gas trying to free themselves. The engine dies. The heater dies. The silence returns. Outside, the sun is setting again. The temperature is dropping. It is going to be freezing tonight. Gary has no oxygen. They have no phone. They are sitting in a metal box that is rapidly turning into a refrigerator. What happens next is a scene of heartbreaking desperation. It gets cold. So cold. Hypothermia is a cruel killer. It starts with shivering, violent shivering, then confusion, then sleepiness. But they don't just sit there. They try to survive. The open trunk. Investigative logic tells us why. They exited the vehicle. Imagine Linda, frail and exhausted, fighting the wind to open the back. Was she looking for a jacket, a blanket, or maybe a tool to dig the tires out? This image haunts me. It proves they didn't give up. They fought, but the wind chill is dropping into the 20s, and the darkness is absolute. Saturday passes. Sunday passes. Finally, the silver alert goes out. Phones light up across Texas. Billboards flash their license plate. But it is 72 hours too late. The technology that could have saved them, the license plate readers, finally ping. But they only tell the police where they were, not where they are. December 2nd. A rancher is checking his fences. He sees a glint of silver in the brush. He approaches. He sees the open trunk. He finds them. The search is over. The chief has been found, but there will be no rescue. When the bodies are found, the immediate question is, who did this? Two elderly people, dead in a remote field, an open trunk. To the untrained eye, this looks like a carjacking gone wrong. It looks like a crime scene. For a moment, the investigation leans toward the darkness of human nature. Was there a predator on the highway? Did someone lure them out there? But the coroner shakes his head. No bullet wounds, no blunt force trauma. The wallets are still in their pockets. The jewelry is untouched. This is the red herring. The killer wasn't a man with a gun. The killer was the environment. But make no mistake, there is a villain in this story. It's not a person, it's the timeline. This is the part that makes you angry. This is the part that keeps me up at night. Gary and Linda went missing on Thursday. The silver alert, that digital scream that tells every cop in the state to look for them, wasn't issued until Sunday. 72 hours. Why? Because in our system, you have to prove someone is in danger before we look for them. The family thought maybe they stopped at a hotel. The police needed criteria. By the time the alert went out, by the time the billboards flashed their names, the Lightfoots were likely already in the pasture, fighting the cold. And remember that police stop? The officer did his job by the book. But the book is broken. If there had been a national database, if the check-in rule had been stricter, that officer would have seen a red flag. He would have taken them into protective custody. Instead, he watched them drive away. He watched them drive out of the safety of the law and into the lawlessness of the desert. But the most chilling piece of evidence is what wasn't there. The cell phone. We live in an age where we are tethered to the world by an invisible digital string. We feel safe because we can always call for help. Gary and Linda forgot that string. And the moment they left the driveway without it, they stepped out of the modern world. They stepped back into the 1800s. No maps, no rescue, just the wind and the wolves. So, what exactly happened in those final hours? We are left with the theory triangle. 3 explanations, each one darker than the last. Theory number 1, the cognitive loop. This is the logical explanation. The Sundowning caused a navigational failure. They missed a turn, panicked, and entered a psychological state called the loop. They kept driving, hoping the next exit would look familiar. They drove until they simply ran out of road. It is a tragedy of the aging mind. Theory number 2, the oxygen clock. This is the medical explanation. Gary's oxygen ran out. Hypoxia set in. Hypoxia is terrifying because it makes you agreeable. It creates a false sense of well-being. If Linda said, "I think it's this way, Gary," a hypoxic Chief Lightfoot would just nod and smile. He lost the ability to be the chief. He became a passenger in his own demise. But then, there is the darkest theory. The forensic paradox. Hypothermia does something strange to the human brain. Just before you die, the nerves that detect cold burn out. The brain gets confused. You don't feel cold anymore. You feel incredibly, unbearably hot. It's called paradoxical undressing. Victims tear off their clothes in the freezing snow because they think they are burning up. Did the Lightfoots exit the car because they were trying to escape the heat of their own dying nerves? Was the open trunk a desperate, confused attempt to find relief from a fire that didn't exist? But even these theories leave one question unanswered. A Conan question, a splinter in the mind. They were at a gas station in Tucumcari at noon, in daylight. They were safe. There were hotels everywhere. There were people everywhere. Why didn't they stop? Why did they keep driving into the dirt? It suggests that by Friday, they weren't just lost geographically. They were lost in a shared delusion. They were driving toward a home that no longer existed on any map. The tragedy of the Lightfoot case isn't just about death. It's about how fragile our safety really is. One forgotten phone. One missed turn. One delayed report. Back in Panhandle, the family waited for a dinner that never happened. The plates went cold. The phone never rang. This case is closed, but the questions remain. I want to hear from you. Was this purely a medical tragedy, or is this a failure of our law enforcement system to protect the elderly? If you saw a confused couple on the road, would you know what to do? Become the detective. Check the timeline below and tell me where was the moment they could have been saved. Leave your theory in the comments. We like to believe that if we follow the rules, if we drive the speed limit, we will arrive safely. But Gary and Linda Lightfoot teach us a haunting lesson. Sometimes the road doesn't lead home. Sometimes the road just ends. And out there in the high desert, in the silence of the wind, the darkness is always waiting for a single wrong turn. Good night.